Hey everyone, the interview you're about to see with Shaun Attwood was really great. It came out of the blue as a bit of a gift. On the interview, live audience, people are asking lots of questions around triggers and flashbacks and lots of interesting things to us as survivors. Have a watch. He's always a great host. Enjoy, and love to know your thoughts.
All right, so I'm bringing Gloria back onto the screen. She is a dazzling speaker, as many of you have applauded her previous appearance on the channel. And we just got to be a bit careful with the language, Gloria, because we're live on YouTube right now. And Gloria's second book, Flight Path to Healing, A Guide for CSA Survivors, is coming out mid-August. And we're going to be recapping Gloria's story and discussing the book more fully. So, huge thank you for coming back, Gloria.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. What time is it where you're at?
5 a.m.
Are we hotter than down there today? We're 40-something degrees.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey? Bit of envy here from good old New Zealand.
Can you please tell the viewers who are not familiar with your story, Gloria, just give them a recap? Oh, I've got to ask you as well, because of the legal requirement on this channel, do you waive your anonymity?
Absolutely, 100%.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey, so morning listeners and evening to you. So my story is unusual. And that I have emerged through sane and happy, actually. So I survived the first 16 years of my life, born into a family where I was used for sex, slavery and transporting. This all began with my father, extended through to family and close friends of his, and then from the age of 6 I was transported to various gangs and to a club which is well known globally. So look, I survived horror. If you put it into a documentary, Shaun, people would struggle, I think. So you know, in terms of, wow, who's come up with that? But the fact is, I got through it. Now, we had things like over 100 pornographic movies. I was leased out of a nightclub in our red light district in Auckland, New Zealand. It's in K Road. I had many abortions performed on me at my grandmother's hands. So this was intrafamilial abuse and came down through the generations, guys. So this was just beyond belief. I think I've sent Shaun the book, but hey, I get it. If you can't read it, it's pretty gruesome. But it's true. So, you know, we've got to start shining the light on this. I also had many occasions where I was leased out over weekends and things for gang initiations. And to be honest, without over dramatizing, I'm actually really lucky to be alive. And there have been police investigations 30 years ago, but unfortunately the burden of proof was not met. So look, stuff that really, one of those incidents would have been enough to end things for people. As a small child, you know, as an 11-year-old, I wanted to end my life. The worst time in my life was the 18 months I was actually left with my father in his care. So no holds barred. There was just trauma after trauma, horror after horror. And look, I'm giving you a synopsis here, Shaun, but really I'm possibly understating the impact. It's taken me decades and decades till my late 50s before I could actually look someone in the eye and say, this happened to me.
Oh my goodness. All right, here we go then. So let's just I'm gonna recap a little bit more then. So whereabouts in the world were you brought up?
In New Zealand.
What part?
Um, Auckland, the North Island, it's one of our biggest cities.
And what did your parents do? I mean, what were their occupations?
Yeah, so back in those days, mums didn't really work. That we're talking 60s, 70s here. The days of the quarter acre section and kids could play in the street quite safely. Well, it was safer for me to be out in the street. So my father was a plumber. In his mind, he was, leading a kingdom. But let's be honest, he was a plumber. Um, yeah.
We've had a question come in from one of the viewers here. Um, Gloria, do you still get flashbacks, etc.? What's your advice on how to cope?
Yeah, so look, the great news is with that, and the book goes into lots of detail, but just for your wonderful listener out there, um, flashbacks come to us unbidden. We can't kind of know when they're going to hit, but anything can trigger them. Could be a sound, could be a smell, could be a person's voice, could be the way someone moves. So, for instance, a flashback for me when I got really triggered was seeing someone walk towards me. It was only a few years ago, and I thought it was my father because of the gait. So, how did I cope? I actually looked down at my hands and I realized they were the hands of an adult. So, that's number one, check in with your body. You're an adult now. And number two, I looked around me and noticed something in nature. Now, for me, it happened to be the grass. So I looked at that and realized that as much as it was living and breathing, so was I. So I started to breathe. So it was in for 5, hold for 7, out for 7. And I just did that a few times and just repeated that over and over. It took a little while, but it will eventually dissipate. Yeah.
We've got another question has come in from Jake. Has Gloria read John Douglas' book Mindhunter or Crime Classification Manual about bringing these perpetrators to justice? What is Gloria's proposed framework hierarchy if she has such?
I haven't actually read those books, but I might take that down. Actually, I'll get Ash to remind me later, and have a look at that. Yes, look, I have taken my case back to the police just recently because my some family members are still alive. Um, yes, so look, it's ongoing, and I can't say too much about it, but I will never give up trying to get justice for this. This is one of the worst criminal cases in our country, and it's not happening. So,
Linda's asked, does Gloria still fear for her safety today?
look, I did a year ago when my memoir came out. I did fear for my safety. I've got anonymity. That's quite a word, Shaun, for 5 a.m. Um, um, for my car registration and for our registration voting polls here in New Zealand. I'm a little less afraid now, I think, simply because I'm I think, light bearer, truth bearer, here to bring truth. And to be honest, if I get taken out, well, you guys will just have to wonder, wow, what happened to her, and start doing some maths. Some pretty powerful people involved, as we know globally. And I know Shaun recently had Annika on the show. So, yeah, we know this is not, these are not folk that have no power anywhere.
Maggie's asked, Gloria, do you feel protected now by good beings?
Yes, look, I'm quite lucky, guys. I've got some big ass angels around me. Am I allowed to say ass? Well, I have. Got some big wings around me. I feel like I had I one well, so I have to see the positive in situations, as Shaun knows. But I've always had my beautiful angels around me, and I was meant to go through what I did. I know it's a weird thing to say, but I think I'm here to help others. There's light, there's hope for others.
Questions are just piling in for you, Gloria. Tish has asked, I had therapy for 7 years, twice a week, just to experience emotions and learning to trust people. How long did you take to stop pushing down feelings?
Oh, look, it can even be there today, Tish. Things like alcohol, eating, keeping busy, all those really wonderful addictions we use to keep our feelings at bay. Until I realised that actually something was there that needed to surface. To be honest, guys, and you gorgeous survivors out there, you're not alone. The best way to deal with these feelings is to actually go through them. Honestly, it's like getting into the water on a cold day. Get in, just keep moving. You'll get there and you will emerge and you'll be able to be like me and smile. So, look, there's hope. There really is. Therapy for 7 years, twice a week. Oh, that's Tish.
Oh, didn't realise my microphone was on mute then, sorry. My computer fan's going like crazy because it's so
Not
hot.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. All right,
Yes.
so your dad was a plumber, your mum's at home, you come along. Were there other kids? Did you have siblings?
Yes, I did. But because I was the youngest and a girl, I was much more marketable. Apologies, audience, just truth here. Much more marketable, could make a lot more money. My father got one of the first four Pontiacs imported into New Zealand in 1968 because of the money he made out of me. So we're talking serious money and images being made and sold. Yeah.
Did something happen in their lives that there's a cycle of this behavior continuing into your life? Your parents' lives? Did something happen
Oh,
from their grandparents?
look, I am surmising. I had heard from a family member decades ago that my father had been brought up in his own family, the only boy in a family of four children, and the girls were made to wait on him hand and foot. He got the best chair, he got the best food. In fact, they couldn't eat until he had. So that Prince syndrome, I think, was at play, and he certainly got everything and more, to the extent that the girls were seen as inferior beings. So if we fast track that team, we can see how I was then a nothing. I was a slave of all sorts. And unfortunately for me, because he was able to carry on in that manner, he taught my brother very well. And yes, there were many incidents over the years with him, and then he got his friends involved. So this is a story that never ends, really, Shaun. But
What
look,
about what about your grandparents on both sides?
oh, shit show. Think of neglect, abandonment, disinterest, dislike. Um, really, unless I was fit for purpose on either side. My maternal grandparents were just disinterested. My grandmother would turn her cheek if I went to kiss her goodbye. No interest. Children were not really of any value, just looked down on, to be honest. On my father's side, just to make it really clear, my father paid my grandmother, his mother, and one of his sisters to train me to be the best child. I don't know how to say the word, Shaun, what I'm allowed to say, but the best child sex expert there was. So there were doors locked behind me, and they would teach me and train me how to seduce men. And yes, so they started training me at the age of 5, and at the age of 6, some real money started being made. So yeah, I saw them getting money. So this was pretty horrendous out there, and almost defies belief. I don't actually feel I had parents or grandparents, Shaun. They don't deserve that title, do they?
You got loads more questions have come in. So Maggie has said, Gloria, is it hard to remember and talk about your horrible past?
No, not now. But again, this has taken decades of hard work and different therapy. And yeah, to be honest, though, I'm an ordinary person who's had an extraordinary life. And let's get me off the pedestal here, guys. It was only early this year when I could put my story out on LinkedIn and start promoting and advocating for CSA. So, guys, shame is huge for all of us as survivors, and it's much easier for me to tell it because now I've found my anger. Yay! Be careful,
Donna,
afraid. We're very afraid.
Donna has asked, do you think much has changed in people taking this seriously, or are just as many people still turning a blind eye to it?
Donna, 100% turning a blind eye. The numbers are growing. This is not diminishing, guys. Across the world, this is the biggest industry there is, this human transporting and child transporting and sex industry. It's the biggest industry there is. In our country, police gave me one report of up to 1 in 3, and we're talking girls and boys. So I noticed, Shaun, you have on your show a lot of guys. So much has happened to them. And for your beautiful audience out there, if you're not a survivor, you'll know someone who is, or you may not know they are. So it's huge, silent endemic.
It's everywhere. It's causing problems all over society, and so many of the people we interview have been to prison. They've gone through this, and it's caused drug addiction and criminality, and they're the ones who end up in prison instead of the perpetrators. The whole thing's upside down. It's the perpetrators who need to be getting these long sentences, and that would really help society. All right. So Kenneth has asked, have your abusers been dealt with by the law?
No. Really clever, these people, these perpetrators. Yeah, didn't happen, unfortunately. My father has passed, as have his friends. I did try. I did get told I was believed by the police, but unfortunately, it just didn't happen. And to be honest, I don't, Shaun, you may be able to clarify this, but in New Zealand, we have apparently 6% of people try and bring this to court. 6%, so 6 out of 100. Out of that, 2.8 or 2.98 are successful. So, as a survivor, think about it. Why would you bother? It's still a horrible system. In fact, some of the survivor community call it the injustice system, not the justice system. And even the police are doing their best. They have to face survivors like me, and I'm more than happy to eyeball them anytime, but their hands are tied because the system is designed to, I don't know, give these guys a free pass, or I don't know if the UK is any different.
The UK is no different, Gloria. It is absolutely upside down. I mean, I interviewed one woman who her own dad was the perpetrator, and he filmed it, and he kept a diary, and he rated them, and what drugs he'd used on her, and all this stuff he put in the diary. The police person who found the diary actually threw up when he was reading it, and with all that evidence, he could only get so many years, and he laughed at the judge and made a mockery of the system. Terrible.
Yes. It's, and the thing is, you've got to be some kind of powerhouse to even front the police on this stuff. We carry shame, Shaun, of the things that survivors carry the most, and I do a lot in the book that helps address this actually. Shame is what shuts us down, keeps us quiet. It all begins in silence, and we're either bribed or threatened. And usually, as small children, we don't have the cognition to understand what's real and what's not. So we believe our abuser. Then then the secrecy is ensured through the threats against family, including pets, or you made me do this, it's your fault. There's survivors out there watching who may have that experience. And then we finally move into shame. Well, shame takes the gold every time. I've got 3 men. I was thinking this morning, Shaun, 3 men in 3 different countries I would love to interview on my channel because I interview survivors. One is in America, the other's in New Zealand, and the other's over in Dublin. These 3 men are successful, wonderful, beautiful survivors out there. They will not speak to me on the show. Why? Because the shame still holds them prisoner.
Yeah, definitely. It is an unbearable thing to go inside yourself and look at that and to reveal it to the world. It takes exceptionally brave people. Yeah. All right, so we've got tons more questions. Let's see. So this is from Snow on Fire. Gloria, are you aware of the testimony of Kathy O'Brien? We had her on the other week.
Yes, I saw that. Yes. Yes,
all right. Okay, so Ray J wants to know if were you able to trace whether this heinous activity went back further than your grandparents, and if so, how far?
Look, I don't. Short answer, but I imagine intergenerational. How could a grandmother lock a small child, with missing teeth, little first teeth coming out, in a room to train them how to act sexually, behave sexually? To me, there's, apart from being a psychopathic, Shaun, would you agree? I think there's also there's a knowledge, there's a knowing somehow. Would you know to do that and feel comfortable with that?
Nexus has asked, is Gloria aware of the A21 campaign, a global non-profit, non-government org that works to fight human transport?
No, I'm aware of the Underground Railway, which is another organisation that rescues transported children.
Okay, then Philip has asked, how does the silence get broken when it does?
So all it takes is one voice, so one person you trust. Um, there is a school of thought out there that tell yourself many times in many different ways, you know, either through art or through poetry or through martial arts or whatever you like, but tell yourself till you're comfortable with your own story. Because, guys, there are reports where someone may tell a sibling or a friend, and the response is, "Are you sure? That didn't happen to me," or he was always lovely to me, or she was always lovely to me. So I think before you speak the words, be really confident. And secondly, when you do tell someone that you know has your back. And thirdly, be so proud of who you are for doing it. I see how big it is. I stand beside you. I believe you.
Philip, what? No, I'm sorry. The psychedelic fish wants to know whether your dad was a Freemason.
100%. One of the biggest groups I was transported to regularly. Yeah.
Okay, so what are your earliest memories then, Gloria?
Oh, need to go back. I, yeah, I don't want to get too graphic here, Shaun.
No, we can't get too graphic here, but do you have any like normal memories aside from the dark memories?
I remember being out in the street as a child and playing back for some of your older viewers, playing things like bull rush and stick in the mud with the neighbourhood kids, and you could see the street lights. And as the street lights would start to come on and the sky would grow darker, you would hear the mums up and down the street calling for their children to come in. And I loved that running. I used to run along the golf course. Oh, here's a little naughty one as a child. I ran through. We had this shopping centre. I don't know if you guys had Woolworths over there. It was like a
Yes.
big chain. Yay! Yeah. Well, I ran through Woolworths, and I was a ragamuffin of a kid, I tell you. And man, I could move. Thinks lightning. I got used to running and hiding, as you can imagine. Ran through Woolworths and I had both hands out, and there was this lolly aisle where they had containers full of lollies, and I just grabbed handfuls and kept running. So that was a great memory. And to this day, my little secret addiction is probably sugar.
Yeah, with chocolate is dark, bit of dark chocolate. If
Ooh, Black
if
Forest.
so all right. So if you're around kids and you were going to school, I take it as well.
Yeah.
What were the warning signs for other people to see in your behavior? Did you have injuries, bruises? Did you
Yeah.
look traumatized? Did any teachers or other kids pick up on any of that stuff?
Well, it's interesting because back in those days was the culture of mind your own business, man's home is his castle. In New Zealand, it wasn't until the 80s that the police were allowed to get involved in domestic disputes. So you could beat the shit out of your wife and no one would come knocking at your door. But I'll answer your question. Did you like that segue? That is simply this, that I would go to school. I was so malnourished to keep me looking thin and underweight for the interested men, that I was always starving and always stealing food. I was always naughty, and I was naughty because it got me attention. Why did I want attention? Because I was screaming for help. On the days or weeks when I was too badly beaten to be seen anywhere, I would be kept home. It was that simple. Other bruises that weren't as severe, I'd just explain as falling over. But I do know a teacher I had when I was 11. She was a nun, Sister Helena, bless her little heart. And she just threw her hands in the air because I was always so attention seeking and naughty. But I think she wondered, and years later when the police interviewed her, she said if she knew then what she knew now, she would have said shocking abuse going on with that girl in her life.
And you did mention that gangs became involved in this. So what was the nature of those gangs?
Well, one weekend I was leased to a gang for 24 hours, which meant my father would drop me there anyway. This was an initiation, which meant someone was being blooded into the gang. And so what they did was had me on the block, they call it, which is hands and feet tied to four corners. And then this guy, his initiation was to do whatever he wanted. And did he kind of have the courage to hurt me as well? Fast track to when my father came to get me. I was so beaten up. My eyes were swollen shut. My face was unrecognizable. I had broken ribs, broken nose. I was so badly hurt. I was taken. My father turned to the gang leader and said, "Hey, mate, you may want to be careful what you do to her." And I thought, oh my God, he's actually going to say something caring, Shaun. Stop fooling yourself. He said, because she won't look as good for you. So that was my father, non-father. And look, guys, I'm lucky to be here. I don't know how else to say it. I made it through, but me, and I didn't think I was going to survive some of that.
And what were these motorbike gangs, or different types of gangs? Or?
There were three gangs in New Zealand at the time. A little bit concerned about stating who they are, who this gang was, Shaun. But yeah, they're still around today, still very active today.
So as you got towards your 20s then, how did your life change?
Complete disaster. well, if you think about it, and look, apologies if I'm using humour, but that's just who I am. Honestly, when I look back, I was the biggest false, attention-seeking, non-grounded person out there. I didn't know who I was, Shaun. I mean, who was I? Neither parent wanted me. I had to put on the big act to be seen or liked or get any food or attention. So I didn't actually know who I was. So highly unlikely for me to attract good people. Put it this way, if you put three good men in front of me, I would have kicked them to the ground to run towards the idiots, because my template was bring in someone who's going to hurt me, use me, abuse me, treat me like shit, and have no regard at all. So guess what? I did. I pulled that in. But look, for my two ex-husbands out there, look, they you know, I have to be respectful, but I attracted what I was templated to attract, and we'll leave that there.
I'm going to bring Andrew. I'm going to bring Andrew in now, Gloria. He's going to take up the second half of this interview while I go and cool down. And I think he's going to start out with your guide for survivors and get more into that. So I'll be back later on. But thank you, huge thank you, Gloria. I'm going to hand you over to Andrew now. Thank you.
Thanks, Shaun. Take care.
Cheers, Shaun.
Bye.
Hi, Gloria. I'm Andrew. Nice to meet you. How you doing?
Hey, good. I see your hair is blowing in the wind.
Oh, if only it were wind. It's a fan that I've got because I'm so hot. Whereabouts are you right now? Where are you calling? Where are you speaking from?
New Zealand. It's 5:31 a.m.
Bloody hell. Wow.
So good old Ash, we love Ash, don't we? I said to him, he's my new best friend. He texted me, he said, "Are you awake?" I said, "Am I awake? I've been waking myself up every few hours so I didn't sleep."
Oh, no. Oh, well, thank you so much for... and also for staying on longer as well. So that's really, really helpful for us as well. You know, with these live things, it's a bit of a thing and all that. But do tell me then. Yeah, I am really interested about your guide for survivors. It's out mid-August. That's in 1 month. What can who should be buying this book? What's it about? Who's it aimed at?
Well, are you ready for a monologue?
I'd love one.
this is for all our fabulous. I've seen Ash through an image, actually. I don't have the book as yet because it hasn't been printed, but it's getting close. But look, what it is it's a guide for fabulous CSA, child sexual abuse survivors out there. It's written from the perspective of a survivor. It's not offering expert or professional guidance. It's not meant to replace therapy. It doesn't guarantee a specific outcome, but it's written from a survivor of 16 years of child sexual abuse. So look, because the book is called Flight Path to Healing, and it sort of encapsulates 4 different parts, Andrew. So please feel free to interrupt anytime.
No, I'm intrigued. Go on, please.
Okay. So it's what personally worked for me through the healing and recovery process. It's got ideas to assist CSA survivors. In that first section, I've got exercises which, when completed, encourage reflection and progression through healing, because we're all different and unique in our stories and therefore our recovery. I've also got beautiful mantras with images which help embed the messages within each chapter. And what I'm excited about, Andrew, is those mantras, they are colour, they're almost cardboard, they're perforated, so you can take them out of the book, put them on your fridge or bedside table or wherever you like. This guide is used however you wish it to be. You're welcome. Because some parts may feel challenging, so there's no pressure to stay in a chapter or a part that feels challenging. Move ahead, come back when you feel ready. Also, time frame, take as long as you need. So things in that first section are, as I say, what worked for me, and exercises on things. So for instance, hobbies helped me through as a child and as an adult in recovery. Friendship was important. Music was a biggie. So I've got kind of chapters and ideas in each around how to utilise things like that. The next chapter is on self-awareness, and this is common symptoms CSA survivors experience. And one of your fabulous audience reached out before, Andrew, and talked about flashbacks. So in this section, we look at things that are common to us, like shame, triggers, flashbacks, dissociation, feeling different, and I explore each one and again have exercises for the reader to do to try and mitigate or lessen the impact, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then also in that section, part 2, I've written about empowering practices. So these are aspects of healing that, when practiced, build healthy functioning. Things like finding self-love, because, Andrew, for survivors out there, self-love can be tough for us. Another chapter's on gratitude. What we focus on, we can get more of. Forgiveness. Now, that doesn't mean anyone has to forgive. It just means looking at yourself and impact on you through not being able to as yet. So again, each chapter has those aspects of healing with exercises to kind of help embed and grow understanding and mastery.
Would you recommend that others who have not been victims of CSA read the book? For example, friends of those who have and partners for a better understanding?
Look, I think that's a really good question. And of course, as an author and someone who's just doing this out of the goodness of my heart, buy the book, everybody. But I think for people who want to understand their beautiful survivor, male or female, friend or family member better, I think it does offer some insights, actually. I'd love to get this into prisons. As Shaun alluded to earlier, we have a huge portion of the population. We know too, Andrew, that over 90% of addictions or people in addiction recovery have experienced some form of child sexual abuse. So this is huge. This is a pandemic out there, and I think it may help, she said.com. You know, I had, my heart is with our survivors because we haven't had a voice. So I'm here very loudly saying, survivors, we need some help and some attention. I promise it will help. I've had a survivor friend read it, and she's already come back to me and said, Gloria, it's helped me already. So I think it may work. But I'm saying that very humbly, Shaun, because it's only my perception.
Have you given a lot of thought to things like prevention, or is that a totally different subject? And that's a very I don't, you know, what do we do? Is it a case of raising awareness? And then there's that sort of tricky line of, you know, you don't mean to victim blame. You don't want to say to children, don't go into certain places and things. How does one sort of straddle that line?
Yeah, look, and that's a really great question. Thank you. I think I haven't written about prevention. I think that's a whole other book.
It is.
Do we need it? Yeah. What does it encapsulate? It encapsulates education, man. It encapsulates normalising these conversations. So, Andrew, thank you so much for keeping me on another half hour. Why? Because we have to normalise the conversation, not the activity. That never can be. But the conversation around this then gives us more confidence to speak out and be heard. There's a lot of us that are so shut down we can't even hold our heads up. And in order for this to be normalised, we have to be able to stand up proudly. But I do get people saying, Gloria, do you still have to talk about it? I'll never stop talking. You know why, Andrew? No. Your child or grandchild are safe. Keep talking, keep talking, keep talking, keep liking, keep sharing, keep promoting, keep advocating. You know, in New Zealand, we have cases every day. We have abuse and care that's brought up. We've got a private boarding school where it's just been exposed, all the paedophile ring that existed among the teaching staff. You know, the wealthiest private, which means public in your case, boarding school here in New Zealand, you know, and shut up, shut up, shut up, shut down, don't speak. And this is why I'm going to be on a platform for the rest of my life, because we've got so many beautiful people suffering. Can I give you a statistic? Because I think it's important, Andrew.
Sure.
Over 70% of PTSD sufferers are not Vietnam vets or war vets, and nothing but respect for them. They're people like me who have experienced child trauma, specifically child sexual abuse. I just want to spotlight a difference here because I think your audience will like it. Vietnam vets get trained for combat. Vietnam vets get awarded medals. Vietnam vets get awarded compensation and lifelong allowances. Vietnam vets get applauded and put on... Honoured, applauded as they should.
Yeah.
Spot the difference?
Yeah, so a CSA survivor's not, just they're not, what are they left with?
Nothing. Shut up.
It's not on, is it?
But this is what happens, and this is why people like me and Kathy O'Brien and Annika Lucas and Maggie Oliver, this is why we're doing what we're doing. Because if we stop talking, who's going to start? And the thing is, Andrew, if our numbers are accurate, and I believe they are, up to 1 in 3, and I'm talking in your country as well, in the heat, have up to 1 in 3 men and women who are struggling with this. The reason for the secrecy and silence is partly on us. Just breathe, survivors. I'm not begging us. It's partly on us because of our shame. We have tried to talk about this and we've been told, oh, just go away. Yeah, sorry that happened, but please shut up. Making me uncomfortable. Yeah, makes sense?
Yeah.
But the second reason, and the bigger one, is that we get what's called the Darvo effect. And I've been liaising with David Icke around this. I'm going on his show in another month or so. Darvo effect is well known to CSA survivors, and it's simply this: deny, attack, reverse the order of victim and offender. Now, the Darvo method is used by all perpetrators and all enablers. For every perpetrator, Andrew, just breathe through this, there's some enablers around them.
So when you talk about swapping the offender and victim, is that what we would call victim blaming, or sort of, well, what were you doing there in the first place, that kind of thing?
I'll give you an example. In my own case, Darvo. Go to my mother with the news in my early 30s, recovered memories. Mum, guess what happened to me? Deny. You have no right to speak of this.
Oh.
Your siblings have a right to have a relationship with their father. Notice the finger pointing?
Oh, my God. That must have been very confusing for you at that age.
I was overwhelmed, and you know my story, I imagine. Horror.
Yeah.
Get the book off Shaun if he can't read it. Andrew, try it.
Oh, I'm so sorry that you went through that, and that was the reaction from your mother. It's terrible.
Oh, thank you so much. So what it did was, you're right, it confused me. It had me self-doubt. All your beautiful survivors out there, I see you, I stand with you, and I believe you. Is this, we all experience it. So the denial begins, the attack begins. Oh, sometimes your mind can tell you things that aren't there, you know.
Sure.
Or you were always a child that never liked him. Or you've always been the troublemaker. You know, is this another one of your ways to get attention? Okay, so that's the A. R for reverse, switch it. Perpetrator's now off the hook. Your sanity is now on the hook. Oh. Your sanity, your credibility, your stature out there. How long do you think it takes for someone who's suffered with the trauma and the shame and the impact of this PTSD or complex post-traumatic stress, for us to then shut down and wriggle away? And guess what? It works in the favour of the perpetrators. So when you say, you know, as Shaun did earlier, it's still going on, how can we help? And your question, Andrew, was prevention. We've got to have more of these conversations, and Darvo needs to be out there. It's in the book too, in case listeners, audience are not able to keep up with that. But the point is this, isn't it clever?
Yeah. Yeah. Where do you stand on, I mean, in terms of a topical, divisive bit of news at the moment? There was a footballer, soccer player, who was alleged to have, I'm careful of my words on YouTube, but, you know, assaulted a woman. We're not talking about CSA as far as I know. And they're not releasing the name of the footballer, and he's able to continue playing football until, you know, being proven guilty or whatever. And some people are very upset by that he's able to continue to play football and keep his anonymity. And then other people are saying, well, that's due process and he might be innocent. Where do you stand on that?
I'm always going to stand with the truth teller and the light bearer, who is the person that had the brave heart and the courage to step forward. Our whole justice system, and yours, I imagine, is geared towards, so heavily weighted towards, you know, innocent to proven guilty, that man that's been manipulated. In the end, Andrew, it comes down to clever lawyers and who's got the best debating strategy. Sorry, it's nothing about justice. So, look, I may be sounding unkind. I don't know. But really, I'm always going to stand with the survivor because I know the courage it takes to speak up and stand up.
Yeah,
we need a global campaign. You know how you have road safety messages over in the UK, or you even have domestic violence? We need global billboards saying, CSA survivors, we support you, or go here for. Oh, I'm setting up a foundation just about to be approved called Handing the Shame Back. Don't you love it? Handing the shame back.
Too right. Well, we should hand the shame back and also hand it to the enablers that you're talking about, and also to the perpetrators. But the perpetrators, I don't even know. It's the most complicated thing because you can lock them up, you can kill them, but then there are more. Do you know what I mean? I wish there was a clearer way to know what to do to stop these people.
Well, okay, Andrew, don't overthink it. Subconscious mind speaking here. What would you like to see happen?
Well, I don't want to say just lock them all up because you can't lock them up. So I would like these people the perpetrators to not do it anymore. Okay, so what do we need to do? We need to make it impossible or very difficult for them to do it anymore. Unfortunately, you will have heard the term grooming, Andrew. Grooming, there's a little myth. Yeah. We're not supposed to say that word too much on here, but I know what you're saying. Yeah. But don't worry, we don't keep repeating it. We're talking about, there's so many rules and regulations, it's impossible to keep up with it. It's just YouTube. And by the way, that's disgusting in itself, that we're not able to discuss this without getting, do you know what I mean? We're not discussing it as in we're the bad guy, you know? It's not on, but what can we do?
But this is what happens to us. So the G word then, I'm going to call it the G force. There's a little myth out there that this happens with children and teenagers. Yeah, you'd agree?
Yeah.
Wrong. It's the adults around them that are usually being G-forced.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because I'm your best mate, Andrew, and I want to take your son to a rugby game. And just let me hit him. Oh, and seeing as it's going to be quite a late one, let him stay with me the night. Hey, buddy, I'll bring round beers the next day.
Did you see that documentary, Abducted in Plain Sight, Jan Broberg? So she came on my other podcast, On the Edge with Andrew Gold, recently, and that's a perfect example of what you're saying. And that's what, when you said that, that really rings true, because obviously the mother and father both individually ended up in sexual relationships with the person who was doing that to her. Unbelievable.
But this is what happens. So you're dealing with very clever, very manipulative, very strategic, intelligent, deliberate people. And because they're usually holding quite a, I'm talking more of a ring now, I guess, but you know, some of them are holding high positions of power and authority. Well, that mana is just taken as read. Someone like me tries to come forward. What do you think happens? Me versus pale, stale male?
No.
Think about you. How often do you see women of my age or stature on a platform like this? Very rare.
Yeah. What? Well, Shaun and I, we do try and have people like yourself, on here.
I'm not talking about your
platform. Apart from us, everyone is awful. I agree with you. We're, I know what you mean. Look, I mean, you mentioned public schools, in the British public schools, which are, super posh schools. There's private schools in the States. I mean, I went to one of them myself, and we had exactly those problems. I mean, they happen in lots of places like that, but we had them they were arrested. I was fortunate that nothing ever happened to me, but there were one or two of those teachers were arrested for that, and it really does go on. I mean, the stereotypes are true.
So look, I think, if I ever got funding, and I haven't as yet, But if I ever did, I would set up a campaign that would blow you out of the water, because education and spotlighting this is the key to attention. Where attention goes, awareness grows. Yeah. So we need to start calling out, every day or every couple of days on LinkedIn, I'm posting a video with tips for survivors or tips for supporting survivors. And I know the mainstream think, get off LinkedIn. This is a professional business platform. But guess what, Andrew?
Yeah.
Aren't businesses made up of people?
Yeah.
Right, thank you. Aren't up to 1 in 3 of us impacted by this? Thank you. I'm never going to stop.
No, and you're so right as well. I've had a bunch of questions from people. I don't know if we'll get time to go through all of them, but I do. This one from Connor Fitzmaurice. Sorry. If someone, especially a child, comes to you about this, this has happened to them, what is the best way to respond to them in the moment?
Okay, so the best way is to have 2 things. One, thank them. Thank you so much for your bravery. I'm so proud of you for doing this. Why? Because they're pretty wobbly at the moment. We need to encourage the confidence to continue. 2, is there anything I can do that will help you at the moment? What do you feel safe with? So I think those 2 things are key, just as a beginning. The other thing is, if they're comfortable, number 3 would be ask if they're okay for you to record it on your phone.
Wow. Okay, yeah. That's important for gathering evidence.
Absolutely, because they may change their story if too many people do. The Darvo effect. Now, you know what that is, Andrew. Never forget it.
No, exactly. I'm trying to twist it
Number 1,
around.
thank them. Please thank them. Tell them how brave they are. The amount of people that survivors try and tell as children and adolescents, it's almost impossible to be.
Tell me about your YouTube channel, because it's a community for survivors, isn't it? So tell me a bit about that.
Oh, I'm so proud of me.
Good.
So, well, I decided shut up or put out, So I decided to create this channel. This is dedicated 100% to adult survivors of child sexual abuse. Each week on the show, I interview a survivor.
Wow.
Very trauma-informed, as you would imagine, so they're safe. And at the end of the interview, I check whether their comfort level is for me to publish. Why? Because they never had a choice as a child. Do you like that? Number 2, I do a media spotlight where I get interviewed. Why? Because the attention that comes through that helps to provide others with resource. Even you and I talking today, someone may have picked up one thing that helps them feel less alone. Isn't that beautiful? The 3, I provide tips for supporting survivors, because as you say, how we're going to create prevention. So even introducing this week on the channel, the Darvo effect, it helps our friends and family understand why we still stay shut down a lot. And number 4, I provide a blog. So every week I write a blog, and they're usually on things CSA survivors can identify with, like, feeling different, because that's something, Andrew, we struggle with all of our lives. Because what happened to us was not normal or okay. So how could we feel normal or okay? So we then feel different, and that tracks through all of our lives. So I write blogs on that to help support. And people seem to like my voice for some reason, so they love it.
Lovely voice.
Oh, bless. Thank you. Look, I don't want to sound like a man, but that's the channel I'm providing.
And what's it called? So people just can go over, click on it and go there?
Everything is Handing the Shame Back. So it's on.
People. Yeah, go on, sorry.
the shame back, and it's on all social media handles everywhere you look. I've even been on TikTok, and my kids say, "Oh, Mum, what are you doing?" But hey, we've got to get out there. I want people to feel they're not alone. This is huge.
Do people in your community on YouTube, is it, YouTube being such a volatile place, do they end up, often I imagine helping one another, but there must also be moments where they trigger one another in a certain way. Can it be complicated to, navigate?
Yeah, so look, I always put a little trigger warning up at the beginning of each show, and underneath the show notes with every show is where to go for help and resource. In New Zealand, we're very lucky, Andrew, in that we have free professional counselling, 6 sessions and more if required, which usually will be through the government, through ACC. So, and people don't have to name the abuser, name what happened at all. So I'm really proud of us for that.
Yeah, totally, really, really necessary, and I hope we get that sorted over here as well. I'm gonna have to let you go now because we're just running out of time. But Gloria, it was I'm so glad I was able to jump on and meet you, because you're a very inspiring person, and I love what you're doing and the people you're helping. It's really something. So thank you, Gloria, and have yourself a lovely day.
Thank you so much, and so nice to spend time with you, Andrew, and your beautiful listeners, especially the survivors.
Yeah, exactly. Go check out Gloria's stuff, everyone, and thank you, Gloria. Oh, what a lovely person, and very intelligent and amazing advice. I'm going to remember a lot of that stuff for a long time, because you never know when you might need some of that advice.